So I've been thinking about the Arsenal midfield this season. I've got to be honest, Mikel Arteta has to get the balance right, and he must solve the problem that has been Arsenal's midfield for the last couple of seasons. Now, a lot of people might think that I'm being incredibly harsh there because individually we have had some phenomenal players already at Arsenal in Arteta's reign. But I just don't feel like we've got the balance right. And I think it would be maybe an unpopular opinion to some, but I think some have agreed with me when I say that the best midfield balance and trio that we've had under Mikel Arteta has been Thomas Partey, Granit Xhaka, and Martin Odegaard. I think all three of them complemented each other. They understood their role. It was quite clear where they stood in terms of their individual attributes. And I think that what they did was complement each other with those attributes by having an understanding of when to go and when not to. There was the engine of Granit Xhaka and the actual ability of his passing, which I was really impressed with. I think that was probably the best that we saw of Granit Xhaka in an Arsenal shirt. I look at what Martin Odegaard did as well that season. 15 goals in that season, was our creative spark, assists galore, goals galore, and was one that you could actually rely on, not just in terms of his leadership on the pitch, but his individual quality, his technical ability, his vision. We had seemed to have more space, and there seemed to be more of an understanding of the players around him. And then, of course, we had Thomas Partey, who, when he was fit, was one of the best players on the pitch and still is, to this day, in my opinion, one of the best holding midfielders that Arsenal have had at the Emirates. And I just don't think it's been the same since. I think we've tried for quite some time now to replace and upgrade Granit Xhaka in that role. Granit Xhaka, for me, was a very good footballer, but was never this hard to upgrade on. Surely not. But he has been. And to think that we got, not much for him. We've been spending an unbelievable amount of money trying to upgrade on Granit Xhaka. We've spent a lot of money on now Declan Rice, who's now playing there, Kai Havertz, who was playing there, Marino, who's coming to play there, Fabi Vieira, who's coming to play there. And we even utilised Smith Rowe, Trossard, and other players in that attacking 8 roles at times where I'm thinking, how is this taking this much money to try and upgrade a player that really and truly was good for around 18 months of his 7-year career in Arsenal shirt? But it has been. And I think it absolutely needs to be said that Mikel Arteta deserves praise for what he did, and the credit does go to him for what he did with Granit Xhaka in that role, because at the moment, he's clearly been the best attacking 8 that we've had at the club. I think moving into this season, we need to see better. We need to see a better balance and understanding of that midfield. Now, if we look at the players individually of what we're going to be having there, I think it's incredibly exciting in certain aspects. I think it's intriguing and interesting in others. And I do think there's an amazing amount of quality within that midfield. But is it balanced? Will it work? Will it complement each other? Let's start with the attacking midfield role, because I think for me, everybody knows that Martin Odegaard is the player that we need to be seeing more from this coming season. It's a huge, huge season for Martin Odegaard to try and win some of the fan base back over, to try and make a proof that he is kind of prove people wrong and make a statement that he is the right captain, the right leader, but also one of the best players technically on the pitch. I still believe that there's some quality within his game, and I still believe even last season we saw glimpses of him playing very well. What I will say, though, is that there was nowhere near the level of consistency that we needed. The goals had dried up. The assists wasn't there. His fitness didn't look right. I think Mikel Arteta proved that he loves him by the amount of games that he kept playing him for, but there was definitely games where Ethan Nwaneri and others could have come in to take his place. Games I saw him being hooked because his performance weren't up to scratch or he didn't look fit enough. That needs to change. I truly believe Martin Odegaard will continue in that role. And I know that there's rumours of Eze coming in. I don't think Mikel Arteta is going to be giving Eze a first team spot ahead of Martin Odegaard. I think Eze could be utilised in another position, or he could be used as a kind of squad player, rotation player, starting some games in Cup or Champions League games and give Odegaard the rest that he needs. I think as well with Martin Odegaard, what we've got to see more of is shooting. We don't see enough. And people will say to me, the reason he doesn't shoot is because he can't. Well, I would disagree. I've seen him take shots from the box. I've seen him score goals inside and outside the box. It doesn't need to be shots from 40 yards. It needs to be the decision-making that needs to be correct. Because the amount of times I see Martin Odegaard in phenomenal positions and he's making passes instead of shooting, the amount of times I see him when there should be a pass and then he decides to shoot, the amount of times I've seen him make the wrong decision when you think they're in. And he's trying to make perfection. He's trying to score the perfect goal. Sometimes keep it simple. And I want to see that more from Martin Odegaard, because there were times in that 22-23 season where he was doing that. 15 goals added to his game. It was phenomenal to see. So when I look at what Martin Odegaard's about, I want to see flair. I want to see technical ability. I want to see awareness. I want to see vision. I want to see creativity. But actually, I want to just see him enjoying his football and getting to the best of his game, because that last season wasn't happening. You've obviously got back up in Ethan Nwaneri, and I've touched on Eze, but I won't talk about him yet because obviously he's not an Arsenal player. Ethan Nwaneri has signed a new deal at Arsenal and he's staying. That removes all the speculation about his future and potentially looking at other moves in the Premier League. He's an Arsenal player. He's an Arsenal boy. He wants to stay, and it looks like he has signed and agreed now. For me, Ethan is going to be one of the next best things that comes out of Premier League football. I rate him that highly. I do believe that he is better in a central role, and I don't deny that he can do a job when Saka's out. I think we've brought in other players now that can come in to cover for Saka, and I think Ethan will be used as backup to Martin Odegaard. If we bring in Eze, they might be both fighting for that spot. But Ethan will get his chance, and Ethan needs to break the door down. So in the attacking role, I actually do think, with Max Dowman coming through as well, that we've got enough quality there coming through the ranks. And at the moment, if Odegaard can find his feet again, we won't have an issue there. But we need to see creativity. The last thing I'll say on Martin Odegaard, I truly believe that we might need a number 10 because Odegaard is actually not a number 10. And a lot of people say to me, well, what do you mean by that? Well, I don't see him as a Kevin De Bruyne. I think he's more of a Bernardo. I think he's the guy who knits it together and gives it to the guy who's the guy. Maybe if we were to bring in a Florian Wirtz and we were to play him alongside Odegaard, you might see that Odegaard is actually a good number 8. He could be in that left attacking 8. He's left-footed. He can use the left a hell of a lot more. He can use the right, feeding Saka a hell of a lot more as well. And he can feed, of course, the striker that we all hope is going to come into Arsenal to take us to that next level. So it's about getting that balance right. Is Odegaard actually an 8? Is Declan Rice actually an 8? Is Zubamey a 6? This is what we're going to find out. Let's move to the number 8 role. I've got to be honest with you. I've mentioned it in Granit Xhaka, and I'll say it again. I don't think that Declan Rice has showed enough consistent level of performances to say that he's a Gerrard or a Lampard. I think he needs to be a box-to-box midfielder, and he needs to play more as a box-to-box midfielder, not an attacking 8. I think the engine is needed of Declan Rice because he covers every blade of grass. Now, when you were playing 4-4-2 of old, we had Vieira and Gilberto doing this, and that was always phenomenal. Then it moved, obviously, when Vieira went to Gilberto and Fabregas was more of that creative spark, but he wasn't a number 10. I think Declan Rice needs to be a Patrick Vieira for Arsenal. Now, I'm not going to say he's going to be anywhere near that level because he just isn't as good, but he certainly needs to share some of the attributes he had in terms of that box-to-box role. His engine in midfield is literally unbelievable, one of the best that's there. I think he's probably the best midfielder off the ball in the Premier League. I think his interceptions are absolutely phenomenal. And I think that when you look at his positioning, it's pretty good. When you look at what Declan Rice is trying to be, when he's in that kind of final third, when he's making late runs into the box, I'm not sure that that's the guy I want there. I don't see him as a Lampard or a Gerrard. But he can kick it. And what I mean by he can kick it is what I used to say when I was younger. Cool, he can kick it. Really what you mean to say is he can shoot. He can hit it. When that ball comes out to 25, 30 yards and Rice is hitting it, I'm like this off my seat because I know it's either going in or it's going to hit the target. So I think that's where I'm at with Declan Rice. Can we get the balance right with him? He's a brilliant number 6. Arteta's moved him into the box-to-box role. Is there an opportunity for him to thrive in that? I hope next season he does. And then we move to Martin Zubamey, who we all hope is going to be a massive upgrade, of course, on Partey and Jorginho. I think what we're going to see is a very interesting player. Someone that comes in and has the passing ability that perhaps nobody else does in that number 6 role. Forward passes, line-breaking passes, and actually using the width as well, because we do need to with Saka being on the pitch. Zubamey has gone under the radar, probably because it's taken Arsenal so long to announce him. I do truly believe that Zubamey is just a number 6. I don't think he's an attacking 8. I don't think he's got any attacking attributes whatsoever. I think he's a holding midfielder, a deep line playmaker, in the mold of a Xabi Alonso type, maybe a Jorginho type. That's where I see Zubamey's role. Now, we've got a decision to make here. Do we play Zubamey and Declan Rice in a double pivot with Odegaard more of an attacking midfielder? Do we keep that 6, 8 and 10 role and go with Zubamey, Rice and Odegaard? Or do we actually try something completely different? Because I have got to be honest with you. Odegaard could be the 10 and I'm not sure he's the 10. Rice could be the 8 and I think he might be more of a 6. So therefore you've got Odegaard who's a 10, who's really I think an 8. Rice who's a 6, who's now playing 8, who I think might be a 6. And Zubamey who is a 6, which is therefore not giving anybody the time for Rice to drop deeper. So if Rice was to drop deeper, he'd be alongside Zubamey or in some games instead of. And then you've got Odegaard to play in that more attacking-minded role. Now, I think there might be games that he chops and changes it around a bit. I don't think he's going to go with the same formation in every single game. And it might be that in and out of possession against different teams, he might go with more of an attack-minded 8. And it might be that Rice plays in the 6, Zubamey sees the game out, comes in for the next game, and we play potentially Ethan Nwaneri and Odegaard in that role. Or maybe an Eze if we have brought one in by that time. That could happen. Then, of course, we have still got Christian Norgard, who's clearly going to be a holding midfielder. And we've still got Mikel Merino, who I know was playing up front last season, but let's be real, was brought in to be the attack-minded number 8 that we believed was going to be the upgrade on Granit Xhaka. So I think the balance, whatever he goes with, has to be right. And I think what Mikel Arteta has made quite clear is that he's still not happy with that midfield, which is why Zubamey has been brought in. People think that we were bringing in Zubamey because Partey and Jorginho were going. That was not the case. Zubamey was wanted when Partey and Jorginho were still at the club. It just so happens to be that their contracts have run out. If they were still with 1 year left, I'd imagine they'd probably still both be at the club. They've just gone because their contracts run out and they've got to their 30s and they want to go and now spend the rest of their years playing football somewhere else. Zubamey has been brought in to upgrade on those positions. So he has to upgrade. He has to be the 6 that Arteta wants. Declan Rice has to be the box-to-box midfielder that Mikel Arteta dreams of. For a price of 105 million, it has to work. And Martin Odegaard as your captain, your leader, your creative spark, has to be creative. So I'm going to be putting pressure, not just on the attack of Arsenal, because everyone knows that we're lacking in that. I'm going to be putting on pressure on our midfield to work and be balanced, because the manager has to get that right now. After spending over £400 million on a midfield, it has to work. That midfield is pivotal. It's the most important department of your pitch. It allows for your defense to be good, and it allows for your attack to have freedom and express and be creative for them to put the ball in the back of the net. And I think with Zubamey and Gyökeres coming into the first team, if that's what it's going to be, I actually think Rice and Odegaard have more time and space now. They don't need to drop deep because Zubamey's there. They've got somebody to feed in Gyökeres. Odegaard can actually be in the area of the pitch in the final third where he should be. So there's no excuses for Rice and Odegaard not to have a good year now that we're bringing in 2 players for the first team that can complement them both. So that's why it absolutely has to work in this Arsenal setup. No news at the moment as we speak on any more crazy players being linked, but there will be stuff that Arsenal are going to be doing. It will not just be one more player coming in. Arsenal are still looking to add to their strength of their squad, and that's what we need to be seeing at this football club to take it to the next level. Do me a favor, people, hit the like button. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you're following our sponsors, Match Bingo. There's the QR code. Links in the description. And we will see you on the next one. Take care, people.